Hey everybody, this is Phil here with Tony, and we're here to talk about Disintegration. Now, we've seen Disintegration a couple times in multiplayer. There was a closed beta not long ago. But Tony, you've gotten a sense of what it's like to play alone. So what's it like?
Well, it's definitely very different from what we've seen in multiplayer. For those that don't know, the premise of Disintegration is it is part FPS, part RTS. So you have your units moving around on the ground that you can command, but then you're also piloting this Gravcycle, and from there you're using your own abilities and you're shooting at enemies. But in single player, you're doing more specific missions, right? So you have objectives, and it's not just about wiping out the enemy every time, right? There's some exploration to it. There's more to learn about the world as you're going through these different biomes. And so it definitely feels more, maybe educational is the right word, because you're learning so much more about this world, which I do find very fascinating.
I've definitely been interested in what's going on with Disintegration's campaign. There's a lot of interesting lore stuff, it seems like, but we've only seen just a little bit of the surface of that. So can you tell us a little bit about like what the conflicts is about, why everybody's a robot, that sort of thing?
Not everybody is a robot. That's kind of one of the interesting hooks here. It is like set in the future. It's like right around apocalyptic kind of times. And humanity is basically trying to survive by putting their brains into robots. And so anybody who does that, those are the integrated, but then you also have the people who are still human, and they're called naturals. The setup is basically a civil war between those who have integrated and become robots and those who still want to stay human and kind of keep that free will and that humanity, right? Just not be a part of the system. Black Shuck leads the Reyon, which is like the main robot faction that you're fighting. But then you play as this guy called Romer, and he leads this kind of band of outlaws, and they're the ones kind of going around rallying up humanity to fight against this robot uprising.
But you're a robot too, right?
So Romer himself is a robot. So like the Reyon faction is kind of fully given over to like automation and being machines and that sort of thing. Like their humanity is gone, but Romer still retains some of that. And in fact, like part of their goal is to hopefully one day disintegrate and actually just be human again, to like get rid of the robot part.
Gotcha. And there we are with the title.
Yeah, there you go.
So how does that work in actual missions? Like who are you fighting against? You know, when we played in the beta, we saw a lot of battles against other Gravcycle teams, and it's like a campaign, it's got to be a little different. There's got to be different enemies and stuff. So what are the Reyon kind of like?
There are different kind of enemies that you fight for sure. And in fact, you actually have this sort of ping ability where you can highlight enemies in the environment, learn more about them. It's less of a radar and more about learning about the world, is my understanding, because you can also ping like architecture and different items in the environment to learn more about the world. But those enemies that you scan, obviously you also fight, and there are different types. You know, when it comes to RTSs, you can use your imagination as to the different units, right? You have your heavier guys, you have your quicker, smaller units, and it's the same for you and your team. The striker class is like a big mech, and he gets a mortar. You have the ranger, which uses more of a sniper rifle. The sniper also has this thing called a slow field. It slows down your enemies and their bullets within the field, so you can kind of use that to like flank people or set up combos. You have these warriors, which are kind of like the most human-like unit, and they have a stun grenade. You can think of them maybe kind of like Halo Spartans, whereas the striker is more like a javelin suit from Anthem or something. So you have different types of your units, which are fighting, you know, an equal amount of varying enemy types.
In the beta, we were mostly just fighting other teams and other Gravcycles, but are you able to customize your Gravcycle as you're playing through the campaign? Are you able to bring different weapons to the fight?
Well, each mission is its own kind of self-contained thing, and each one gives you a specific Gravcycle to use, so you don't get to customize it in a single player. You do in multiplayer, right? Like you can make your own loadout, you can pick the perks you like, but in single player, you do have a specific one for each mission. That said, you can sort of generally upgrade yourself using these things called chips. Not to make the Halo comparison, but, you know, the director of this game did also, you know, work heavily in the Halo series in a minor way, maybe comparable to like the skulls from Halo, where you could like find one and equip one and it would change sort of how you play each mission.
You can experience Disintegration's campaign for yourself. When it launches, it'll be on PC, Xbox One, and PS4. It's still planned for later in 2020. And keep an eye on GameSpot for more Disintegration coverage in the future.